The City of Hills. Every year, about 16 million visitors come to San Francisco on the west coast of the United States. Most people arrive in this wonderful city in California by car, bus, or plane. But some take the train and go across the country on the famous old railroad. You can get on a train in New York, on the East Coast, and travel to the city of Chicago. From there, you can make one of the world's most exciting train journeys. From the window, you can see vast rivers, red mountains, big green trees, and many wild animals. At first, you go past the towns and villages of Iowa and Nebraska. Next, through the big Rocky Mountains. Then, across the open country of Utah, and in the end, through the mountains of the famous Sierra Nevada. 3 days after you leave New York, you arrive in the city of San Francisco, a wonderful finish to a beautiful journey. This railroad across the United States first opened in 1869. It carried thousands of people to San Francisco, and the city became bigger every year. Men and women began to call this exciting place the Paris of the West. These early visitors traveled to San Francisco because they wanted to make money and have a new life. But why do millions of people come to this city today? Many visitors are interested in the famous places there. They want to walk across the wonderful Golden Gate Bridge, sit in the beautiful Golden Gate Park, or visit the island prison of Alcatraz. But they also want to see the nice views. San Francisco is nearly an island. It has water on 3 sides. There is the Pacific Ocean on the west side, San Francisco Bay on the east side, and the Golden Gate, with its famous bridge on the north side. The city is smaller than other American cities. It only has 800,000 people. But many people live in towns like Oakland, 13 kilometers away, and come to work in San Francisco every day. There are about 70 hills in San Francisco, so it is a very good place for photographers. You can stand on a hill and take wonderful pictures of San Francisco with the blue water behind it. But you need to be very quick with your camera because the weather often changes here. 1 minute, you can see big blue skies, and the next minute, there is only the famous white fog. This moves quickly across the city from the sea. A lot of visitors love San Francisco because it does not feel like a big city. The hills break the town into different parts. These are called neighborhoods. Every neighborhood has its coffee shops, restaurants, and little supermarkets. 43 of the hills have names, and some of the neighborhoods take their names from them. For example, in the downtown part in the east of the city, there is Nob Hill, Russian Hill, and Telegraph Hill. Over the years, many families from across the world moved to the city. Today, some of these neighborhoods have a lot of people and shops from one country. For example, there is the famous Chinatown with its wonderful Chinese restaurants, or the newer Japantown with its Japanese food shops and bookshops. Many men and women come to the city because it is an open, free place, too. In neighborhoods like the Mission, many people like to meet and talk about new ideas. When you sit in one of the coffee shops there, you sometimes hear people talk interestingly about new and different things. Last of all, visitors come because they learn about the city from hundreds of films and books. For example, the writer Jack London was born in San Francisco in 1876. He was from a family of workers, but he later became famous for his exciting books, The Call of the Wild and White Fang. In some of his stories, like Martin Eden, you can learn about the lives of people in old San Francisco. The writer Dashiell Hammett lived in the city in the 1920s. He wrote wonderful detective stories, often with the famous San Francisco fog in them. Perhaps the best of these is The Maltese Falcon. It became an important Hollywood film in 1941 with Humphrey Bogart. Some later books were very different from these earlier stories. For example, The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan is about 4 families in the Chinatown neighborhood. It looks at the lives of older Chinese women and their Chinese American daughters. Of course, many visitors remember the films, too. Who can forget Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock? In this 1958 film, a San Francisco detective is watching a young woman, and she suddenly jumps from under the Golden Gate Bridge into the cold water. The detective does not like tall buildings or bridges, but he quickly jumps down and helps her. Many books and films use the San Francisco fog, but one film famously uses the big hills of the city. This was the 1968 film Bullitt with Steve McQueen. It has a very long car chase up and down the hills. It is one of the most exciting car chases in the world of film. When you say the words San Francisco, something interesting often happens. People begin to sing. They sing something called I Left My Heart in San Francisco. The singer Tony Bennett first sang this in the famous Fairmont Hotel in the city in the 1960s. Most visitors know a lot of stories about San Francisco today from the cinema, TV, and radio. But how much do they know about the early days of the city? They were Native Americans, and in this part of the country, they were called the Ohlone. They lived in villages along the coast and found things to eat in the rivers or the sea. This seafood and the wild animals were an important part of their usual food. But the lives of the Ohlone changed suddenly in the late 1700s, when early travelers from Europe came to the area. A Spanish soldier called Captain Juan Bautista de Anza arrived on the coast, and he made a building at the Golden Gate in 1776. Then the Spanish opened a mission here, the mission San Francisco de Asís. The city of San Francisco later took its name from this place. Everything was now different for the Ohlone. The Spanish needed workers, and they took many of the Ohlone to live in the mission. The Spanish brought new diseases with them too, and about 3/4 of the Ohlone people became ill from these and died. There were a number of different mission buildings, but the last one was built in 1791. You can visit this beautiful place today. It is now called Mission Dolores, and it is the oldest building in San Francisco. In 1821, the area stopped being Spanish and became part of the country of Mexico. People built houses away from the mission, and they began a little town called Yerba Buena. Between 1846 and 1848, there was a war between the United States and Mexico. On the 2nd of February, 1848, California became part of the United States, and the town soon changed its name from Yerba Buena to San Francisco. Before this time, there were not many people in the town or the area around it. But things changed one day in January 1848. At Sutter's Mill, a place 190 kilometers to the northeast of San Francisco, a worker called James Marshall found something interesting in a river. He worked for a man called John Sutter, so he quickly went to him and told him about it. What did Marshall find? Soon the two men knew the answer. It was gold. John Sutter did not want to tell people about the gold. But one important man soon heard about it. This was Samuel Brannan of the newspaper The California Star. He walked quickly through the streets of San Francisco with some gold in a bottle in his hand and said, "Gold, gold, gold on the American River." Of course, the people of the town all left at once and went to look for the gold. So San Francisco became very quiet, with nobody on the streets. But then, newspapers around the world wrote about the story. They talked about mountains of gold in California, and the famous Californian gold rush began. In the gold rush, people came in their thousands to California. They all wanted the same thing: to find gold, and to find it quickly. Around 40,000 people came across the United States, often on foot. Thousands of travelers arrived by ship from Europe, China, and Australia, too. They were called the 49ers because many of them came to California in 1849. A lot of these visitors stayed in San Francisco before and after their journey north to the gold areas. The number of people in the town suddenly went from 1,000 in 1848 to 25,000 in 1850. Hundreds of new hotels, restaurants, and places to drink opened, and the town soon became a wild place. Some travelers in the early days found gold easily and made lots of money. But many people soon lost it in the streets of San Francisco. The hotels and restaurants often made more money than the 49ers. The Californian gold rush finished in 1855. Some people went home, but many stayed and opened businesses. San Francisco changed from a little town into a city. Some of the most famous San Francisco businesses come from this time. For example, the Wells Fargo Bank and Stagecoach business opened in 1852. The Wells Fargo stagecoaches brought letters and travelers from across the United States to California. The roads were very bad and dangerous, but the stagecoaches usually arrived on time. The stagecoaches and the new railroad across the United States opened San Francisco to people from across the country, and big ships from around the world often stopped here too. In the late 1800s, many rich people began to build beautiful houses in neighborhoods like Nob Hill. But the city later lost many of these on one very bad day in the spring of 1906. Day, the 18th of April, 1906, the earth suddenly began to move in San Francisco. Most people were at home in bed. All over the city, men, women, and children sat up when they heard a long and terrible noise. The earth did not stop moving for 42 seconds. It was a very big earthquake, one of the worst earthquakes in the world at that time. Families ran out of their homes and saw a different city. Most of the houses, shops, and hotels were not there any longer. Soon, fires began in different neighborhoods, and they moved quickly from place to place. People wanted to stop the fires, but there was not a lot of water. Only one fountain, called Lotta's Fountain. Soldiers and other workers stood in a long line and took water from the fountain. The water went from one person to the next, but it was slow work. The fires only stopped after 4 long days. More than 3,000 men, women, and children died in the earthquake or the terrible fires, and more than half of the people lost their homes. Many began to sleep in open places like the Golden Gate Park. Countries around the world quickly learned about the disaster. For the first time, newspaper readers saw pictures of a city after an earthquake. Countries like the United Kingdom and Canada and rich business people in the United States gave money to the city. Very soon, all the builders began to build new houses, restaurants, and shops, 15 every day. In the years after the earthquake, San Francisco became a wonderful city again, ready for a big exhibition in 1915. This was called the Panama Pacific International Exposition. Thousands of people came here from all over the United States. They could see exciting new things and eat different food from countries around the Pacific. In the 1920s and 1930s, San Francisco became more important. Hundreds of ships from around the world came and went every week. In the Second World War, big ships were built there too. After the war, writers and thinkers with interesting new ideas came to San Francisco. In the 1950s, they moved into neighborhoods like North Beach and Haight-Ashbury. The most famous of these people was Jack Kerouac. Many young students read his 1957 book, On the Road. In the book, he travels around the United States and goes to San Francisco a number of times. Perhaps one of the most exciting years was 1967. Over 100,000 young people traveled to San Francisco. Most of them were hippies with big hats, long clothes, and flowers in their hair. These hippies stayed in the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood, and they ate, sang, and talked about ideas all in one place. This time was called the Summer of Love, and people around the world saw it on TV. From the time of the 1960s and 1970s, the city became famous for its open ideas. San Francisco was a good place for people from different countries and with different lives. Many visitors loved the place, so they stayed and opened shops or coffee shops in some of the more exciting young neighborhoods. Of course, this was only one part of life in San Francisco. The city became important in the world of banks and businesses, too. In the 1990s, a lot of new internet businesses quickly opened with money from the banks. In March 2000, many of these businesses suddenly closed again after the banks wanted their money back. But today, the city is famous again for its banks and new businesses.